well deserved. You won an Oscar for your Joker score. We have to ask, what was going through your head when they called your name?
That I think I just heard like
just noise.
Yeah, exactly. And then in the back somewhere was like, just don't fall down, just get on stage and get off in one piece, and then everything will be fine.
That's amazing.
Hi, Hildur. How you doing?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
We are doing wonderful.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing your time with us today on the Movie Podcast.
Of course, my pleasure.
No, we are such massive fans of yours and your composition, so this is just very, very special for us.
Thank you.
No, and we have to ask, what we've loved so much about what Kenneth Branagh has done with the Poirot films is that making each one feel distinct. How did you begin to find the sound for A Haunting in Venice?
Well, that was exactly the starting point, basically, that he raised. He was very clear that he wanted this film to be very different from the other two films. So we were really focusing just on this film specifically, and there were no references to the other films really. So basically the process was that he had kind of general outlines of what he wanted to do and where he wanted to take the project and how he wanted it to sound and feel. And so he wanted the score to be pretty dark, of course, as the film is much darker than the previous ones, and he wanted it to lean more towards like an atonal sense of tonality, and he wanted it to be rather small in scale, like he wanted it to feel like a chamber piece, like he wanted it to feel more claustrophobic and confined, because we're just in this film we're just staying in this one house pretty much the whole palazzo, pretty much the whole time. So he had these very clear guidelines that he really stuck with the whole time. So I started pretty early in the project. So I joined as they were still shooting. So they were playing a lot of my music on set. So I was kind of hovering over the set as they were filming. And then after our first meetings, while they were still shooting, I started writing music based on these initial ideas, and I really started to dive deep into the music history of this time, which I think is incredibly interesting, and I think it's so fascinating to really hear how people are processing these big changes that are happening around the war times. You know, the pre-war and post-war music that's being written and the questions that are being asked. You know, the what is music and what is sound, and how are we playing our instruments, and how are we orchestrating, and how can we abandon all the old melodic structures and musical structures and move forward towards a more atonal and mathematical approach or experimental approach, and break everything up, you know. So that was kind of what I was playing within the music. I was rocking as the timeline. We see the timeline unfold in the story. You know, we're looking back at in scenes, for example, where we're staying with the story of the girl who was one of the first victims. You know, that has some like this romantic melody that takes us back to the pre-war past times where melody was accepted and allowed, and into the forward movements of where we have the big reveal, and that's where we're moving towards the future, and the music gets more atonal and structural and but still, it's interesting to look at how music can be abstract and atonal, but still emotional. It's still a part of this emotional landscape that's happening, I think, for people at this time. That I found that very interesting.
Yeah, and especially when you think of how music was transitioning in that period of time, You definitely captured that, and it was very very fitting of the setting of where this movie's taking place. Is very haunting.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't listened to a lot of 1940s Italian music, but I would assume a lot of it sounds like that.
Yeah, well, I wasn't trying to sound like another composer, but I was just imagining if I were a composer at this time, like how would I be writing melody? How would I be abandoning melody? You know, so it was a very fun thought process.
Love that.
That's got to be amazing. I'm assuming, your first time working with Kenneth Branagh, that must have been such a great experience also. What was that like for you?
It was just simply fantastic. He's just such a wonderful person. He's so generous and open and accommodating and clear. He has such clarity, which I think it's so wonderful to create in that environment, where there's no confusion about anything. It's all like really, constructive, forward thinking dialogues, and it was really simply wonderful to work with him.
We first fell in love with your work and your cello solos from the films like Prisoners and Sicario and Arrival. What was it about the cello for you growing up that bonded you to that instrument?
Well, that's an interesting question, because I started playing it when I was very young, and it was my mother basically that kind of pushed it towards my direction. So I didn't exactly choose it myself from the beginning, but so I grew up playing it, and I grew up slapping it around and going to string rehearsals and string orchestra rehearsals and classes and all of this, and it's not exactly the most convenient of instruments to play, so I
definitely not. No,
I never really, I always had this kind of love-hate relationship to it. That I had this fantastic theory that the less I practiced, the better I was, which is a really shitty theory if anyone's thinking of trying.
Not a common one, no.
Not exactly. It doesn't work. So, and it wasn't really until I stopped studying it, that I stopped being told how to play it, that and I just started playing it for myself and without any, obligation, so to say. That's kind of when I really fell in love with it. And that's when I realized how magnificent it was. And that's kind of when I started to find my own way of playing, but it was wonderful to have a classical training and know how that stuff, how it works and how you can get the most out of it. And then, but it was, the time when I realized, I'm also allowed to bring my own ideas and my own way of playing to it. And then I really fell in love with it. That was kind of like being married to some dude for 20 years, and then all of a sudden after all that time falling in love.
Yeah, it's best when it happens like that, I guess.
Yeah, exactly.
Now, well deserved. You won an Oscar for your Joker score. We have to ask, what was going through your head when they called your name?
That I think I just heard like
just noise.
Yeah, exactly. And then in the back somewhere was like, just don't fall down, just get on stage and get off in one piece, and then everything will be fine.
That's amazing. Is there anything you can tell us about the Joker sequel you're working on? Because that's more of a musical this time.
It is, yeah. There's lots of music. I can tell you that.
That's good. Okay. Breaking news.
Breaking news. We have lots of music.
Amazing.
That's wonderful. Hildur, we are such huge fans of yours. We wish you had more time, and hopefully we'll get to talk to you again. You're absolutely so lovely.
So much fun.
And we loved your work on this film and in all the films you've been part of. So we look forward to talking to you again.
Thank you. Likewise. Thank you.